Chapter 1. Intentionality causes overflowing joy, and you have neither one. In order to convince you to keep reading, I need to tell you up front how the ideas presented in this book will change your life for the better. The good news is that because these ideas will more directly cause greater improvement in your life than anything else of which I am aware, that's really easy to do. The bad news is that they are so beneficial that I don't think you'll believe me. As you continue to read, you'll see ample evidence of just how powerful these ideas are, how immediately they can be put into practice, and how quickly they will transform your life for the better. For now, let's begin with the story. A life of unparalleled purposeful productivity. Throughout my life, I have outperformed those around me in most ways. I've had an unusual number of jobs and other activities, and the resounding consensus from my peers and supervisors has always been that I am the most productive person they've ever met, though the form of expression has varied from, "I don't understand how you finished this already," to, "How do you get so much done?" to, "Knock it off, you're making us all look bad." That said, you might assume I've had some sort of challenge-free life, or that I'm particularly gifted. Though the space to prove it would take a biography, I promise you that both of these couldn't be farther from the truth. As a child, I routinely felt as if I had to work much harder, longer, and smarter at things to perform at the same level as my peers. The lack of stability from moving 18 times before I was 18 years old meant that I was always catching up on something, and often many things, in some aspect of my life. The beauty of an early disadvantage is that if responded to with tenacity, it can motivate the establishment of a pattern of exerting extreme force into what one sets out to do, in spite of great obstacles. Acting like a giant flywheel, building momentum with each activity that carries into the next throughout one's life. Somehow, in the chaos of my childhood, the tenacity of tearfully learning how to write, tell time, learn basic math, and grow in fitness that seemed to come so easily to other kids, transitioned into greater and greater momentum to continue applying outsized effort, even after I caught up. Time and again, I found myself promoted to gifted and talented classes in school, to supervisory positions at work, to higher ranks in the military, and so on. Consider the following examples in the domain of employment. I began working for my grandfather's construction business picking up trash at 8 years old for a brief stint over the summer. By the time I was 15, I was made supervisor of a man in his 60s on a construction crew. During the school year, I was working as a cart attendant at a grocery store and quickly promoted to a shelf stalker. Then I took a job as a restaurant cook, where I was training new hires within the first week as a restaurant cook. At 17, I was hired for an internship at an insurance company. Within 2 weeks, I finished the work my predecessor had accumulated over a year as an intern, and had to find another job because they had run out of more work to give me. I found a job at a computer store where my assignment was to clear an overflowing stock room full of broken computers that needed to be walked through the long process to gain authorization for return to the vendor. I had the room completely cleared in a matter of weeks, much to the shock of the owners, who promoted me to fixing computers because they had nothing else for me to do in my prior position. This pattern continued through my undergraduate years and into my first jobs following. My assignment in my first programming job was to single-handedly build a piece of software that would not only replace but improve upon an established product built by a large company. In 6 months, my completed project was in production, earning the hospital millions in new revenue per year. Within 2 job changes in 3 years, I found myself leading a small software company, where I had been promoted over the engineer that had hired me after successfully replacing the failed code produced by 2 engineers over 2 years in just 2 months after starting. I returned to university where I completed MS and PhD degrees in computer science within 6 years, graduating with more peer-reviewed publications than anyone in our large, competitive graduate program, all while having 4 children in diapers, fully remodeling a derelict starter home, writing 2 books, and serving as a company commander in the National Guard. At age 30, I became the youngest hire on the computer science faculty I joined. In spite of delays in my timeline caused by several years of full-time work in industry, 2 years of missionary work in Chile, and 10 years in the National Guard, I was promoted to assistant professor 1 year early, earning competitive rewards for research and receiving excellent reviews for teaching. I was awarded tenure, having outperformed my previously tenured peers in grants awarded and papers published, in spite of founding and running a tech company, building a hobby farm, and writing another 6 books during that time, in addition to being a husband and father to 5 small children. This is not a complete story, but it should help you believe that I know a thing or two about productivity. I have only been able to do what I have because I live the system I am going to show you in this book. It works, and my life is abundant proof of it. The story of what I accomplished does not describe the challenges I worked against, which were much greater than I can take the space to describe. How did I do so much in so little time? How did I overcome what would overwhelm most people with stress, anxiety, and depression? How did I deal with the uncertainty and the sheer amount to do? Where did I find the motivation to continue through so many long projects? And why did I consider it all worth the cost? In this book, you'll find the answers to all these questions. But first, we need to stop talking about me and start talking about you. What do you want the most, and why do you want it? One day, while walking along, you find an old Arabian lamp. It's scuffed and dented, but you figure you don't have much to lose by rubbing it, so you give it a shot. Out comes a shabby genie, who explains that while he can grant wishes, that as the discount version of the legend we all know, he can only give you one. What would you ask for? After you tell the discount genie your wish, he gets into the fine print. He explains that he doesn't have the kind of budget those deluxe genies have. They can afford to give everyone whatever they ask for, but only if they limit their requests to what they really want. It turns out that different things are worth different amounts to different people, and very few people really want what they say they want. In order for him to grant your wish, you have to convince him that you want what you are asking for enough to justify its cost. Do you think you could convince him? In reality, outcomes of tremendous value are available in life, and all of them have a certain price. While the budget genie is not real, the opportunity to have what you are willing to pay for is. You can have anything you are willing to pay the price for. Part of that price is finding out what it takes to obtain it. The other is doing just that. When you explicitly define what you want and how you expect to receive it, your achievements will reach further toward your potential than ever before. You will more consistently do what is needed on a daily basis to bring about the outcomes you say you desire. In order to obtain what you want in life, you'll have to learn how to do so and be willing to do whatever is necessary to get it. Part of what is necessary will be to prioritize what you want among competing options, because your resources are limited, and the things of greatest worth tend to demand a great many of them. You can't prioritize what is of greatest worth if you do not yet know what you want. You can't intentionally choose what you do if you don't know what you want. In Lewis Carroll's book, Alice asks the Cheshire Cat for directions and gets a philosophical exchange that is more than the directions she was looking for. Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here? That depends a good deal on where you want to get to, said the cat. I don't much care where, said Alice. "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," said the cat. "So long as I get somewhere," Alice added as an explanation. "Oh, you're sure to do that," said the cat, "if you only walk long enough." While the Alice in Wonderland books were written a very long time ago, the same principle of guiding purpose applies in the countless examples of modern autonomous robots that surround us. A robot cannot decide where to go unless its programming tells it what is most important. A robot cannot decide where to go unless its programming tells it what is most important. It will have a certain set of possible actions defined, and it will be told to use them in order to maximize some outcome, usually subject to certain constraints. For example, an autonomous car might be told to go from point A to point B in the minimal time while obeying traffic laws and not colliding with any other objects or people. If the robot did not have its purpose, potential actions, and constraints defined, it would not be able to navigate in any but random moves, causing random outcomes instead of arriving at the intended destination. Most people live a life full of situations they don't particularly want, that they obtained through walking long enough in directions they didn't particularly think through. Most people never arrive at their intended destination, and many encounter infractions and collisions along the way that they would have rather avoided. The reason is simple. Humans don't tend to approach life intentionally. What do you want? Joy. If we were sitting face to face, we could go through the following exercise. I would ask you what you want more than anything else. You would answer. I would ask you why you want that. You would answer. I would ask you why again. You would answer. If we continued this exercise for long enough, it usually only takes 3 or so rounds, we would arrive at what you really want, and it would almost surely be different than what you said you wanted at first. It wouldn't be the sports car or pony or even the college degree for your child that you said you wanted at first. It would be joy. Joy is what you really want, and you only say you want everything else because you believe those other things will give you more joy than anything else. The things people say they want when first asked are surrogate sources of joy. They are useful intermediaries that serve as waypoints on the path to greater joy, but they are not joy itself. While they are essential to guiding you closer to what you seek, their utility is limited, and you will never reach what you seek until you understand those limits. Seeking joy through a surrogate goal can never lead you to levels of joy greater than what that surrogate goal can provide. In order to overcome this limitation, surrogate goals must be considered in conjunction with other known alternatives, as well as the understanding that something presently unknown will always lead to still greater joy than the best thing you presently know. Intermediate sources of joy will always reach a point where they fail to justify the existence of ever more suffering in life. Joy is the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to gain joy. At its root, everything we do is to maximize joy. It is inescapable. Joy is the sensation of value. Value is, by definition, what we want. We seek what we want, which is what we value. Thus, we seek to maximize joy. All human choice is to that end. That the purpose of life is to gain joy isn't a new idea, even if it was never explained very well. Anciently, Aristotle said, "Happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence." Footnote: while some would argue that happiness and joy are different phenomena, this book treats them as synonymous.